Welcome to This Explainer. Today we're unpacking a really fascinating 2024 academic study out of the Business School. We're looking at the actual empirical drivers that make employees want to go above and beyond their basic job descriptions. So if you've ever wondered how to build a culture where people just naturally want to pitch in, well, this research gives us a solid, data-driven roadmap to get exactly there.
Okay, let's jump right in with a massive question for anyone running an organization. What's the secret recipe that actually makes an employee do more than just, what they're paid to do? What turns someone from a standard clock puncher into a dedicated community member who voluntarily lifts up the entire team?
To figure that out, we're going to follow this 6-step blueprint. We'll start by looking beyond the job description, explore the power of distributed leadership, dive into work engagement and job crafting, examine the Indonesian cultural context, check out the empirical evidence, and finally, build a model for success.
Let's move straight into Section 1, looking beyond the job description to foster OCB.
Before we can really mix our recipe together, we kind of need to know what we're baking, right? The ultimate goal here is cultivating Organizational Citizenship Behavior, or OCB. Now, OCB is essentially just the academic term for an employee who voluntarily helps out, takes on extra tasks, and supports the broader community. It's all that discretionary effort that definitely isn't in the formal job description, and it isn't officially rewarded, but it's absolutely vital for keeping the whole institution running smoothly.
And the context of this study brilliantly illustrates why OCB matters so much right now. The researchers looked at higher education in Indonesia, which is going through this massive, unprecedented expansion. Student enrollments are soaring, which is great, but it's severely straining faculty time and resources. On top of that, competition between universities is incredibly fierce. So when resources are stretched thin, having a workforce that voluntarily steps up is literally the secret to alleviating that pressure and elevating institutional success.
Right, let's move to Section 2 and look at our very first ingredient, the power of distributed leadership.
This structural equation model from the study is a great visual map. It shows how 3 specific ingredients, distributed leadership, work engagement, and job crafting, are theorized to flow directly into generating that ultimate goal of OCB. You can see how these distinct elements all feed into one another.
So let's break down that first piece. Our foundational ingredient is distributed leadership. This is a deliberate step away from your classic, rigid, top-down hierarchy. Instead, it's a highly collaborative approach that actively empowers faculty, staff, and stakeholders to actually participate in the decision-making process. It's all about sharing authority, not hoarding it.
And you can really see the dynamic shift here. Distributing leadership means trusting your team to solve problems together, almost like a giant puzzle, rather than relying on strict bureaucratic red tape. It shifts the focus away from formal titles and towards actual problem solving. When leaders genuinely appreciate contributions and delegate real responsibility, it tells employees that their voice matters. And that creates the perfect, fertile ground for OCB to flourish.
Okay, on to Section 3, where we'll mix in our next 2 essential ingredients, engagement and job crafting.
The second ingredient is work engagement. And this isn't just about being okay with getting a paycheck. It's this energizing, deeply fulfilling mindset where employees, in this case university lecturers, are intensely enthusiastic, highly motivated, and just completely immersed in their daily tasks.
Highly engaged employees don't just show up to work. They bring this infectious vigor and pride that elevates the entire institution. The researchers actually use the Utrecht Work Engagement Scale to measure this, noting that this kind of deep absorption inspires really proactive, innovative teaching. Plus, it actually helps mitigate the very real risk of academic burnout when workloads start piling up.
Now for the third ingredient, job crafting. I love this concept because it is incredibly empowering. It's a proactive, dynamic process where employees actively reshape their everyday tasks, their work relationships, and even how they think about their responsibilities to find more personal meaning and leverage their unique strengths.
By customizing their roles to fit their passions, like, say, trying out a brand new teaching approach or teaming up with coworkers who share similar research interests, employees can massively boost their own job satisfaction. However, it is worth noting that traditional workplace cultures and heavy administrative burdens can sometimes make people a little reluctant to do this. So it's absolutely vital for institutions to actively encourage this behavior. Now for Section 4, we need to talk about the Indonesian cultural context, which adds a really fascinating twist.
You see, you can't just parachute a concept into a new environment without considering the local landscape.
When applying these primarily Western concepts in Indonesia, we really have to contrast individualistic, flat hierarchies with collectivist realities. Indonesian cultural values place a huge emphasis on group harmony, social responsibility, and a deep deference to seniority. That completely changes how you implement these strategies. Job crafting in Indonesia, for instance, might be a lot less about individual self-fulfillment and much more about tweaking your role to support the collective success of your entire department.
Let's jump to Section 5, testing the formula with empirical evidence. Theories are great, but the researchers wanted hard proof of what actually moves the needle.
To prove this recipe really works, they conducted a massive survey of exactly 300 academic lecturers. And to ensure they got a comprehensive view, this sample included faculty from both state and private universities spread all across the Indonesian archipelago, including Sumatra, Java, Kalimantan, Papua, and Sulawesi.
When they ran this data through rigorous structural equation modeling, the results were super clear. While work engagement had a really solid impact coefficient of 0.28, distributed leadership was the undisputed winner, coming in at a massive 0.45. So the numbers literally don't lie here. Decentralizing your authority and genuinely trusting your team is the single most powerful driver for creating organizational citizenship behavior.
Finally, Section 6. Let's look at a model for success and how you can actually implement these findings.
So what's the big takeaway for organizational leaders tuning into this explainer? Well, the data lays out a clear, step-by-step recipe for success. Number 1, you've got to flatten your hierarchies and share that decision-making power. Number 2, cultivate a supportive, trust-based community to boost everyone's dedication. And number 3, allow for localized job crafting, keeping it within collective boundaries so it serves the greater good.
I want to leave you with this final thought to chew on regarding your own workplace. If you truly want your employees to go above and beyond, to volunteer that extra discretionary effort and act as real organizational citizens, are you hoarding leadership or are you distributing it?